Good morning, Rabbi Sai. Yaakov Rosedale's in the house. Been a year. Tomorrow's going to be a year. A full year, be'emes. Unbelievable. Lili Nishmasi Mimirosi Rus Bas Mordechai. Sponsored by Joe, Cala, in loving memory of Yitzhak Moshe ben Yosef Zev, Zechron Brocha. Yitzhak Moshe ben Yosef Zev, Cala. The word Cala is in today's daf. Not that it, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it or not. Something like that. It's within that area. Lirfua kol chole Amenu. Amen. Psuei koiches habitachon ונפגעי פעולות האיבה בעילום שם. בעילום שם. I didn't write it. I just print it. Ilum Shem is with the ayin. So I'm not going to say who I think who wrote it.
Who's the anonymous one?
Seder. Dear Rebelli, I want to thank you again for leading me through Shas and teach me how to learn Torah with a geschmack. Your simchas and ahavas Torah is contagious, and I got contaminated by you, Baruch Hashem. I'm sending you something you might want to use and share tomorrow regarding Kiddush in the Beis HaKnesses. It's a tshuva from the Or Zarua that really gives light to the sugya. Here it is. I hope to remember to say a few things. Thanks again. Hope to see you at the Siyum, even if I won't take the vaccine. Maybe he means he hopes to get corona. No, what are the other options? Those are the only two options, corona or vaccine.
He means he's not going to take the vaccine because he wants to stay contaminated and part of the shir. That's what he means.
David Cantor, Givat Zev. We have Rashi on the okay. Rabbi Pesach Waxman says, this is one of the most confusing emails I've ever read. You hear this, Avi? Check this out. I know, but I got to concentrate. This is very difficult. But I want you, because you're his Talmud. You're Rabbi Waxman's Talmud, and so is Hillel. Maybe you can explain through Pshat. Here we go. We're in the U.S. We flew here on January 12th to Dallas for grandson's bar mitzvah and stayed for great nephew's bris. Then to Lakewood and Marlboro for upshare for grandson. We changed our flight back to Israel 3 times. Finally supposed to leave in February. We're told that if we return, we wouldn't be able to leave Israel for 60 days. And we wanted to come back for Pesach. His name is Pesach, and another grandson's bar mitzvah a week later. So we changed our return home for April 14th. You hear Pshat? In the meantime, we're in Marlboro for Purim, and then to Florida Sun for 2 weeks to be with 2 children, then to St. Louis with another son, a wedding in Baltimore, then to Chicago for Pesach with daughter's family, then back to Lakewood. If anybody can chazer all these places and all these simchas, b'li ayin hara, my son Avi sends his regards to you. By the way, I'm still with the shir daily on YouTube. Please send regards to the MDY Chevra, that's you and you. The daily shirs, listen to this. This is the main part. The daily shir is my only constant during these crazy times. Coming from a guy that's in Marlboro to Lakewood to St. Louis to Chicago, back to Chveisvas to Florida Sun. It's the only constant. Thank you, Eli. If you come to Chicago for Pesach, I'd like to meet you again, Pesach. Shkoyach, Rabbi Pesach, Waxman. Where is that? It's in Florida somewhere? Oh, upstate New York?
No, New Jersey.
Marlboro, New Jersey. Half an hour north of Lakewood. Okay, the Eilim knows where it is. That's taker. Who? Yeah. Nachinavi, of course. I don't know what this is. I'm going to go for a different one. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'akol niyeh b'dvaroi. Rabbi said we're holding Daf Kuf Amud Beis. A lot of people ask me always, where do you come up with all these stories? How come all these stories only happen to you? So I'm going to give you an example. We're all present at this story, at this nace. I'm the only one that noticed it. Me and Dr. Listhouse, maybe. You see, a typical daf consists of Amud Aleph and Amud Beis, and usually if you do your math here, you'll see Amud Aleph is about 45, 50 lines. Amud Beis is usually shorter and easier, also about 40, 45 lines. Total of what? Almost 90 lines of reading. And the way it works is we go pretty nicely on Amud Aleph. Then we get to Amud Beis. We rush up a little bit, and we usually almost make it to the end, and then it's about 8:01, and then shiur's over. Yesterday, we had a total of maybe 40 lines. 40 lines. Amud Aleph, we went normal. Amud Beis, we rushed through it, and we didn't even get to the end of the Amud Beis. What is that? That's a true Neis Nigla that I noticed, nobody else noticed. You noticed it? You didn't say a word. Mamash, a Neis Nigla in...
The Cala covers, that one.
You don't want to embarrass me, Bram. Shkoyach. Vital Torah ve'echos. And Kamos. All right, Zok Tehillim Gemara. We're holding brand new sugya, Daf Amud Beis. What's amazing about Amud Pesachim is the amount of halacha, lemaisa, and just halacha in general that goes. We're not going to go through all the halachas, obviously. We're going to touch upon a bunch of different halachas that are going to get to us on a day-to-day basis. Says, he's not here today. Okay, want to point something out, but okay. Says the Gemara, Oisam b'nei adam shekitchu bebeis hakneses. There's a minhag to make kiddush in shul. The Shulchan Aruch brings that today the better minhag is not to make kiddush in shul. We're going to see what the inyan is. So they made kiddush in shul. Omar Rav, we're going to see 3 shitos, 2 now and 1 coming up a little later on Amud Aleph. Yedei yayin lo yatsu. So the chazan gets up, makes kiddush in front of everybody. Bar Priya Gofen makes kiddush. If he goes home and he wants to drink another cup of wine, he must make another Bar Priya Gofen. The Bar Priya Gofen he made in shul is not good enough for the Bar Priya Gofen he needs to make at home. Why? Because there's a hesach hadas. When you move from one place to another place, that ruins it. You have to make another bracha. Yedei kiddush yatsu. He made kiddush. And that's it. His yaitz is kiddush. Why? Because, as we're going to see in a second, there's a concept of kiddush b'makim suda. And Rab is of the opinion you don't need kiddush b'makim suda. I could have kiddush by itself, have a suda somewhere else. I was yaitz of the mitzvah. It's like blowing shofar over here, and then I shake lulav over there. One thing has nothing to do with the other. I made kiddush, so I'm yaitz. I have to make a suda Shabbos? That's somewhere else. I'll do it somewhere else. They're not connected one to another. Yidei kiddush yatsu. Ushmul amar. Shmuel says no. Yaf yidei kiddush lo yatsu. Rabbi say, big simcha. We just hit 100 daf into Pesachim. Amazing, amazing accomplishment. Af yidei kiddush lo yatsu. Says Rav, you weren't yaitz anything. When you come home, you have to make kiddush again. You have to say agafen again. Says the Gemara, so according to Rav, what is the point for him to make kiddush? Why is he making kiddush? He was yaitz kiddush. Why is he repeating kiddush? Obvious answer, he's not doing it for himself. If he's not married, he doesn't have any children, there's no reason for him to make another kiddush. But because he has a wife at home, so he's b'moitzi her. Ushmuel lamali lekadushe bebeknishta. Since anyway he has to be yaitza again kiddush at home, so what's the point for him making kiddush? And by the way, it says the Rashbam brings that everybody should taste from the wine. There's an inyan to taste from the wine. It might not be ma'akev for everybody else, certainly for the person making the bracha, but it's kedai to drink from the wine. Shmuel lamali lekadushe bebeknishta. Why do you have to make another kiddush in shul? Says the Gemara, la'apukei orchim yidei choyvasan. They're guests, people that hang out, live in the shul, the achlu v'shasu v'ganu b'bnei knishta. These are people that live in the shul. They live in shul. So first of all, just to bring it home a little bit, Rabbi Eliezer Pilz was saying at a hesped that the Bachram had such Mesiras Nefesh back in the day compared to us. What's Mesiras Nefesh for Torah today? How do we describe Mesiras Nefesh for Torah? So you learn in a place that doesn't have air conditioning. Wow, Mamish, Moisa Nefesh for Torah. Moisa Nefesh for Torah back in the day, we're not talking about a long time ago, before the war. People would travel to yeshiva knowing that they might never see the parents again, ever again. Rav Shach saw his mother one time in his life after he went to yeshiva, just once for 2 weeks. That's it. Just they had to walk for weeks, literally.
Who did his laundry?
I'm not going to go there. The story, he had one shirt that was black. That's what they called him, ukmei. The Talmidei Chacham were black. I'm not going to go there. It's gross stuff. Shoes. There's a lot of stories. They didn't have shoes. They didn't have... He said in the Levaya that a bacher came to yeshiva, finally made it there, all after a week of traveling. He comes to Yeshiva, and the Yeshiva says, okay, you want to know about Teg, where you're eating? Here. Sunday, you're going to eat by so-and-so. Monday, you're going to eat by so-and-so. Wednesday, you're going to eat here. Thursday, you're going to eat there. And he's done, and he says, no, what are you doing here? So the bacher says, Rebbe, what about Tuesday? He said, you came here to eat, or you came here to learn? That was that. Kitzer. These are people that hang out in the shul. In the shul. They came to the Brisker Rav, I think in World War I. He said, what about the mess that the people are doing in the shul? They're running away from the war. The shul is a wreck. We need to lock up the shul. He said, it's a great idea. Lock up the shul. You can lock up the shul, but you have to make sure that you take the people into your own home. You don't want to take them into your own home, so make sure the shul. Fine. So people used to hang out in the shul. It was a place to hang out. And those people needed to hear Kiddush. What's amazing is that Tosfos asks, and he makes a big deal about it. He goes on and on. How do you eat inside a shul? You cannot eat inside a shul. And if you're going to say they made a t'nai, that's only after the churban and this and that, a whole back and forth. And he says, Ein chanami, they don't eat in shul. They don't eat in a shul. They eat in the side room of the shul. Look at Tosfos on the side. Big thing here. Don't eat in a shul. It's also to eat in shul. All right. So, bekitzer, these people need to hear Kiddush. Whether they have food, they don't have food, that's a different story. Va'azda Shmuel etamei, and Shmuel goes to the Shitase. The Amar Shmuel, ein Kiddush ella b'makayim su'uda. Here's the famous halacha, famous concept, which unfortunately cost me 25 years of Kiddushim. My first Kiddush, maybe I was 25 years old. My father never let me go to a Kiddush. I didn't know what herring was until I was 20. Why? Because he's a Grunik. And the Gra holds, Kiddush Makam Suda means literally a Suda. You have to have bread. Now, the good news for everybody else is that you don't really need bread. Any kind of cake is pretty much, according to the Mishnah Berurah, the Magen Avraham says, cake is also good. Some Rishonim say, you have to make Kiddush by the Suda. Some Rishonim say, you could also drink another cup of wine. Take another Revi'as. That's why by the Seder, a lot of people drink another Revi'as. It's a Suda. 2 Revi'as. 1 Revi'as for the Kiddush, 1 Revi'as for the Suda. But it's better, says the Mishnah Berurah, if you're going to be yaitza through wine, it's better to eat a piece of cake or kugel or something like that. That's your Suda. So that's Kiddush b'makim Suda. The Ben Ish Chai says, I just want to say a very cute thing. He said, the Ben Ish Chai says that Kiddush b'makim Suda is, you could learn it, you should be mekadesh yourself b'makim Suda. And he says that the chet of Adam Rishon was ba'achila. The first chet in the world is eating. So we're here to make up for that chet. So that means that when we eat things, we constantly have to look at the chsherim. There's no worms, there's no nevelas, there's no treifas. And then when you sit at a su'uda, at a Shabbos meal, you're talking the Torah, you mekadesh the su'uda. He learns in the words, Kiddush b'makayim su'uda, brachas b'kavana, or you shouldn't eat chalav stam. Yeah. I told you about the guy that Mati Middeldorf. The whole Shalach Manos this large, just chalav stam. He's like, this should be your last licks or whatever he said, All the chocolates you can, okay. Toblerone, who gave me a Toblerone? Somebody gave me a Toblerone like this big. Mordechai Ashkenazi gave me, because he was sending it from America. It's expensive. He got me one that, yeah. No. It's like a diet. You go to the restaurant the last time and you eat, and then you go on a diet. Just want to make sure I'm not missing here anything. Oh, there's a nida in the. It seems like even the Rishonim. A shayla. What does Kiddush b'mokim suda mean? Is it that you should have Kiddush together with a meal, or that you have to have a meal together with a Kiddush? A very big nafkamina. What if you only have a glass of wine? should you make kiddush by yourself? Or no, you could only make kiddush when you have a meal. It's a very important shaila. If you only have one glass of wine, is it a bracha levatala? Because you have to make kiddush b'makom suda. Or maybe no, the suda has to have kiddush with it. So Mele, if I only have one glass of wine, make kiddush. You'll be yotzei mitzvah's kiddush. Mitzvah suda is everything. And some people want to say that's exactly why the Gaon, which is based on Rishonim, on the Talmidei Rabbeinu Yoina and Rabbani Tzarfas, they say that kiddush b'makom suda is with mamish bread, and has to do with that shaila. Suda or not suda. Fine. All right. Zog the Gemara. So Shmooze says, "Ein kiddush ella b'makom suda." So memela, you weren't yotzei kiddush at all. You made kiddush in shul. There's no suda there, so you got to go home and make kiddush again where the suda is. Other nafkaminas l'mashal, then you get to us on Sukkos. The Mishnah Berurah discusses this. I'm not going to go into halacha exactly, but interesting shayla. It starts raining. It happened to us in Eretz Yisrael. It was unbelievable. The first rain of the season happened during Kiddush on the first night of Sukkot. Remember that? How many years ago? 4 years ago. Mamish during Kiddush. A lot of people had to go inside. So what do you go inside? You make Kiddush inside, and then it stops raining. So you want to go outside. If you have to have Kiddush Malkim Suda, you might have to make Kiddush again in your sukkah. Depends where your sukkah is. The backyard, attached to the house. There's a door, not a door. Shilas like that. Kiddush b'makom suda. Here in Bnei Yeshiva, somebody asked me because I give a Daf Yomi shir. He thought I knew halacha, and not connected at all. He said he was walking to the Kiddush and he hears a guy screaming, "Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu Borei Pri Hagafen." The guy was mighty him. Is he yaitze because he's in the hallway? So being a Maggid Shir, I said I don't know the halacha, but I'll just tell you this. I think if you bring the food to you, then it's b'makom suda, but you weren't b'makom suda. The kiddush has to be b'makom suda. You were outside. Now, if you bring the food to you, that's okay. But you going inside will be a problem. I think. Ayin sham. I'm not passing in halachas. I'm just saying we have to think how this has ramifications to our day-to-day kiddush life. Huh? Week to week. It's day. No, people think about this daily. You should see when there's a kiddush next door, because in Eretz Yisrael kiddush is very rare. And they only serve 1 or 2 foods, like a Yerushalmi kugel with a pickle, and that's it. There's like 20 more mispalalim for some reason. They always, the same guys, same 20 guys always show up. Oh, they hear there's a kiddush, they show up. Zog the Gemara. That's if you leave the house, you go to another place. So if you go from one place to another place within the house, not. There's 3 shitas in the Shulchan Aruch, he brings them all down. That if you see you're in one room and you go from corner to corner, that's one shita. If you could see the other room, another shita. And from room to room in the house, you don't even see them. From, let's say, from the second floor to the bottom floor in your own house. Is considered a makom suda. So you make kiddush here, you're okay over there. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you should be more makbid to do it next to where you're going to eat and not walk around. Rav Anon bar Tachlifa, says Rav Anon bar Tachlifa, Zivin Sagin, many times, I was present by Shmuel, V'noches mi'igra la'ara, he came down from the attic to the first floor, V'hadar mekadosh. Most learn, some learn differently, most learn that it means that he didn't make Kiddush upstairs, he made Kiddush for the first time downstairs because he didn't want to do, he wanted to be Mekayim Kiddush Makom Suda, even in his own house, he held that the second floor to the first floor is not considered Kiddush B'makom Suda. Some learn that he made Kiddush upstairs also, whatever. We're not going to go with that pshat. Vav Ravuna Savar Ein Kiddush Elo B'makom Suda. Ravuna also holds that you have to have Kiddush where you're going to eat the meal, or at least some food. The Ravuna Kaddish V'Sakar L'Shraga. He made Kiddush, and then the lamp fell down, so he didn't have light. So he decided, he took all his kalim out and he went to his son, the famous Rabbi Bar Avuna. Was just getting married then. So there's a lot of light by the wedding, by the whole Sheva Brachas over there. Why did he have to make Kiddush again? He already made Kiddush at home. He made Kiddush in his house and then the lights went out. So he brings his stuff over to his son's house. And he makes Kiddush again. Alma kasavar ein Kiddush ela b'mokim su'uda. He wasn't Yitzhak's first Kiddush. You have to make Kiddush where you're going to have the meal. The bottom line is, if you're just going to have a shot of whiskey, that's a problem. That's not Kiddush b'mokim su'uda. You have to eat something, according to everybody. According to the guy, and you have to eat. I made a few times, I did a Kiddush and I brought rolls. Maybe one or two people watched Hamaitzi for it. But that would be the ultimate. To have a Kiddush, you have your Shalmi Gogo with a roll. You know how it worked then? People used to bring their own food. It was a different world then. They didn't have a shik's caterer flying in from Florida down to your thing. Different sides, different things. Shevet brachas. Yeah. Vaf Rabbe Sovar Ein Kiddush. No one's just pointing out that he wasn't invited to his own son Shevet brachas. He crashed the party after the lights went out. Okay, I hear. Vav Rabbe Sovar Ein Kiddush Ela B'mokim Suda. You see, Rabbe also held this. Damar Abaya. Abaya says, "Ki havina bei Mar." When I was by Mar's house, meaning the master, Rabbe the master. Ki havim hakodesh. He used to make Kiddush. Omalon Ti'imu Midi. You should taste something. Dilma Ados Litu Lushpizo Misakir L'Chushraga. Maybe by the time you get back to where you're staying, there won't be any lights. V'lo Mikadesh L'Chu Bebeis Achila. U'Bekiddush D'Achal Lo Nefkidu. You're not going to have Kiddush over there. It's interesting, some Rishonim actually learned that you're not allowed to make Kiddush when it's dark. You see here, it's dark, you can't make Kiddush. Some say, no, it's just a practical thing. It's not so easy to make Kiddush and eat. My Kiddush we made over here, you're not Yaitza. So what you should do is, Ti'imu Midi. So you see, some Rishonim learn, Ti'imu Midi, something. It doesn't say, Ti'imu, you should go have a whole Suda and eat a piece of bread. Ti'imu Midi. It said, no, Ti'imu Midi means bread. Okay. Let's just see for a second. I can't ignore all these guys here every day. Yitzi Spiro's in the house. Leon Welcher, Shalom Aleichem. I haven't seen you in ages. Hanging out again. I see your hand. Shkoyach. Yosef Kessler, Shalom Aleichem. Danny Fine. I don't see you in Beis Medrash. I see you on Zoom. It's not acceptable. Wow. Okay. Beautiful. Okay. And Barak is sleeping. He has a picture of him sleeping. I hope he's not sleeping. All right. Zok Tehillim Gemara Eini. Vamar Abayo. If you're looking for the place, it's 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 lines from the bottom. Call me the Mar Ava Ovid Kirav. Everything Rabba did in his life, he did it exactly like Rav when there was machlokes between Rav and Shmuel. The Bar Manitlas, the Ovid Kishmuel. There are 3 things that Rabba went with Shmuel versus Rav. In other words, not one of them is not Kiddush b'mokim suda. So that's the question. Why did he do Kiddush b'mokim suda like Shmuel? Shmuel's of the opinion that you have to have Kiddush in the same place that you eat. That's a sheet of Shmuel. Rav doesn't say it. Rav says, Yidei Kiddush Yatsu. Remember? The last line in Amud Beis, Kuf Amud Beis. Rav says, if somebody makes Kiddush in Shul, he's the Chazi, makes Kiddush in Shul, he doesn't have to make Kiddush again at home because you don't need Kiddush b'mokim suda. Shmuel says you do need Kiddush b'mokim suda. All of a sudden, Rabbah is passing like Shmuel. Rabbah only passing like Shmuel 3 times. Where? Matirin mebeged lebeged. You're permitted, and that's the halacha l'maisa. You're allowed to take your tzitzis out of one tzitzis, take the strings out, undo them, and put in another beged. Why? You have a nicer beged. You have a rip in this beged. Or let's say you want to put chelis in. Or nice tzitzis. Stam, I say it every time, just for Menachem Mateh. Matir and what? And Yosef Rudensky is not listening right now, but Menachem Mateh, he likes to chap him. Matir and beged. Umadlikim in air, and from Ner Chanukah, you're permitted, the minig is not to, but you take from, the halacha is, you can take from one candle, and you don't have to take from the shamish, you can take from a candle that's already lit to light another menorah. The famous Reb Shimon, if you're with us in Masechta Shabbos, Davar She'enu Miskaven, if you're dragging a bench and you're making a furrow here, you're making it could be Choresh, it could be Baina, it's not 100% you're going to do it. It's not Psik Reisha. It's not 100%. There's a chance it's going to happen, there's a chance it won't happen. So since you're not Mechaven, you don't have Kavana to plow your field, what you want to do is get the bench from place A to place B. Reb Shimon hold it's mutter. Davar She'enu Miskaven, it's mutter. So that's a kula, and he holds like Reb Shimon. You You're allowed to drag it on Shabbos. As long as you don't have kavana to make a far, to make, how do you say charetz in English?
Groove.
A groove, thank you. It says the Gemara, the answer is, he paskin like Rav when it came l'chumra. Kule de Rav lo have avid. He never did the kulas of Rav. He only picked the chumras. And now, all of a sudden, so now he's being machmir like Shmuel. He picked the chumrah of Shmuel. He picked all the chumras of Rav, and now he decided to be machmir himself. You need kiddush b'akim suda. Right. That's the whole chiddush. He always went with Rav, of course, l'chumrah, but even in these things he went like Shmuel. L'kula. He went l'kula in these three things. Now, the question that Rashbam points out here is you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to jump from Rav to Rav when you feel like it. A kula, a chumrah. So he says that's only when they contradict each other. The two halachas contradict. Over here, he took a chumrah. You're allowed to be machmer. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan Amar, here comes the third shita. So again, we had Rav and Shmuel. If a chazan makes kiddush and shul, according to Rav, he's not yoytze the bari priya gofen, but he is yoytze kiddush. According to Shmuel, he's not yoytze anything, not even kiddush. Comes Rabbi Yochanan and says he's even yoytze bari priya gofen. He doesn't have to make another bari priya gofen. Three shitas. He doesn't have to say bari priya gofen again. He tasted it, says Taisvis. He doesn't have to say another bari priya gofen. By the way, the Rashbam points out, and Rashbam is very much la halacha, different than Rashi. He always tries to point out what the halacha is. He says, it's mashma from the sugya, that the halacha is like Shmuel, that you have to do kiddush b'akim suda, and he sticks in another halacha is that if I want to be moitzi you, but I'm not eating in your house, let's say there's an almana or something, you go over to somebody's house, you make kiddush for them, and you leave, that's okay. Because the sudas for that person you're making kiddush for, it's not the person that made the kiddush. The person that's being yoytze the kiddush has to be by his suda, not the person making kiddush and being moitzi. I don't know if I should say this joke. There's a joke in Hebrew. It's only for people that speak Hebrew. They say like this in Hebrew. Mamish for Hebrew speakers, it's a corny joke. Oh, sh'ta chol letzet levad, o shani yotzi otcha. B'negeh to be moitzi and yoytze. Okay. If you got it, you got it. Not.
Obviously, there's not one Hebrew speaker here.
The one Hebrew speaker. It's a play on words, basically, to be moitzi and yoytzi, and the guy tells his friend, either you can leave on your own, or I'll lift you up and take you out of here. It's funnier in English? You got it. There's not a single person with humor in this room. That's the problem. Okay. It's fine. Oy, I just insulted everybody in one shot. It's fine.
I got it.
You're the only person I insulted bichidus. I picked you out. Bring it on. What? O shata yotze, o shani yotzi otcha. That's funny. If you're chazan and shul, you make bari priya gofen, you yoytze wine. Vaz Rabbi Yochanan tamei Yochanan shitasid Amar Rabbi Yochanan bar Abai Amar Abdas Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Echot shinu yain. I wouldn't turn the page if I were you. Even if you bring a new wine, says Rabbi Yochanan, you don't have to make another bracha. However, points out the Rashbam and Taisvas, there is a concept called atoiva hametiv. It's a very big sugya. We're not going to get into it that much. We have a few minutes. If you bring another wine into the Suda, even if it's equal at the end of the day, Tosfos talks about it has to be better, even if it's worse. But I think we paskin, don't quote me on this, I think we paskin, even if it's equal, then you still make Atoiv HaMetiv, but there are 6 conditions. I don't remember all of them. Nachman Seltzer was in my house, he brought a guy, a Rav, that wrote a book on it. What's his name again? Rabbi Daniel Travis wrote a sefer on just this topic. Travis, and he likes wine, and he wrote a sefer about it. Basically, if I can remember, maybe you'll remind me. You have to be with another person. You have to have another person. The wine has to come onto the table At a later stage, do you have to hide it or not? That's different. But he said you don't have to have better wine. At the end of the day, it doesn't have to be better. It has to be more and this. Kids, it says meshubach, fine. But the bracha hatov v'hameitiv you have to. Very important. I just want to point out, Tosfos says on the bottom over here, very interesting. Do you make hatov v'hameitiv on anything else? Only on wine or anything else? The Ravid says you'd make hatov v'hameitiv on another type of bread. You bring in a chash of bread, sourdough, very good. Sourdough, you make hatov v'hameitiv. That's Shittas HaRavid. Tosfos, on the other hand, you look in the last line of Tosfos, he says, what's that hatov v'hameitiv? It's brought from Harugi Beitar. You're finally able, the Klal Yisrael was able to bury the Harugi Beitar. Hatov shelo yisrichu v'hameitiv, that the nitnu l'kvura. But that's because they took the bodies and the blood of those Harugi Malchus and they were mezabel the krumim. They used it to fertilize the wine. So on wine, when you drink the wine, to remember that bracha, so to speak, that they're able to bury them, we say hatov v'hameitiv. It's very exact to wine and not to bread. Another idea, like a person's nifter. Yeah, but I'm saying in food wise. And we just turned the page to Daf Kuf Aleph Amud Beis, turned the Amud by Eli Dykman. Brocha vehatzlacha for all the MDY team in their everyday lives, for all the hard avodas hakodesh they do. And sponsor for all Choli Yisrael, especially from our MDY family. Look, the island is busy with the Chaylim. Unbelievable. Please consider joining the MDY Tehillim group, tehillim.8minutedaf.com. And says Rabbi Yochanan, V'echot shinui makom ein tzarich levarich. If you move to another place, and the Gemara is going to slug it up right away, if you go from one place to another place, says Rabbi Yochanan, you don't have to make another bracha, so that's why I don't have to make another bracha on wine. I don't know why Yitzi Spiro is large on the screen, but how are you doing, Yitzi Spiro from Chicago? Shalom Aleichem. So, I used to work for his father. I told you, I used to be an electrician. His father was the electrician that taught me electro. Anyway, that was a long time ago, 20 years ago. The Rashbam points out that this idea of shinui makom has nothing to do with wine. It's halach in all brachas. We happen to be talking about wine. So according to Rabbi Yochanan, you don't have to make another bracha. You made a bracha on wine and shul, you're good to go for a while. Meisvei. Shinui makom tzarich levarich says mefurish in the brisa, you must make a bracha when you change places. Checkmate on Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan just said, you change places, you don't have to make a bracha. It's a mefurish in the brisa. You go to another place, you go from shul to your house, you have to make a bracha. Why am I on the screen large? Why am I looking at myself here? The guy running the whole Zoom. Okay. In fact, it's a bam kash on Rabbi Yochanan. Says the Gemara, Yosef Ravidi bar Ovin kamid Rav Chizda. Ravidi bar Ovin was sitting in front of Rav Chizda. Yosef Rav Chizda v'kol mar mishmei Ravuna. It's interesting. Just remember, Rav Chizda was saying in the name of Ravuna. In 2 seconds, he's going to say in the name no one. Now he's saying in the name of Ravuna. This idea that when you move places, you have to start over, you have to make a new bracha. That's if you go from one house to another house. But if you go within the same house, you go from room to room, you don't have to make another bracha. Interesting. What if you go from you live in an apartment building like I do. You go from one apartment to another apartment. It's within the same roof. You're going in. So Rabbi Yashav Paskins, that's considered shinui makom. There's others that say, no, you didn't go under the sky. It's not a shinui makom. Loi. Omer Avidi bar Ovin, hachi tanin alei b'masnisa debei Rav Heinak. This is a mamish where you're saying that this whole halach of makom and l'makom is from one house to another, but within the same house not. That happens to be a brisa, the brisa of Rav Heinak. V'amri lo b'masnisa debei bar Heinak. By the way, the only time in Shas. So it's either Rav, either they flip the reish and the beis. Either it's Rav Heinak or bar Heinak. But it's the same thing, only one time. Kivasach. So there's a brisa just like you. Velo Ravuna masnisa kama ashmalon. Ravuna is telling us a brisa. Ravuna masnisa lishmile. He didn't hear it. Rashbam does not like this whole line. He says Ravuna doesn't need to know every brisa. We learned this many times. They didn't know all the brisas. They had to know mishnayos. That you had to know. Every mishnah you had to know. But brisas, there's many brisas they didn't know. So what's the Gemara's question? You didn't know? Yeah, he didn't know the brisa. Yeah, he comes to tell you chiddush in the brisa. Therefore, he takes this out. He erases this whole line. Fine. V'su Yosef Rav Chisda v'ka'amar mishmei de nafshei. And then Rav Chisda didn't say in the name of Ravuna. He was just saying, Ha dar meshinu makim tzarich levarech. And this is going to take us down to the bottom. It's one idea, but it's long. It's just a lot of words. Ha dar meshinu makim tzarich levarech. La'amar nela b'dvarim shein tunim brocha la'achreim bim kaiman. So there's different types of food. There's water and fruit that you eat, and if you leave the house by mistake, you don't have to come back to make the bracha achrayna. But bread, if you leave by mistake, if you leave by mistake, you have to come back. We still say you have to come back and make the bracha, make birkas hamazon at home. So the Rashbam says this is going on everything that you need, even a bracha mein shalosh, a bracha achrayna, a mein shalosh. Hodam Rishina Makom, this is Machlekes Rishonim here. Lo yamar nel b'dvarim she'ein tu'unim brocha la'achreim b'mkoyman. Aval dvarim ha'tu'unim brocha la'achreim b'mkoyman. But if you need a return, ein tzarich levarach. Then you don't have to make another bracha. Why? My taima l'kiva kama hodar. I'm returning to my meal. I have to return anyways to make my birkas hamazon. I started in my house. I went to Shalom Zachar. I forgot the bench. Happens, right? You leave. Then you come back, but because I'm mechuyev to come back, so the Shalom Zachar was just part of my meal. I went to the bathroom for a second, I come back. I didn't make a hefsek. It's one long meal. If I drink a cup of water at home and I forgot to make a bracha achrayna and I leave, since I'm not mechuyev to come back, so when I come back I have to make another bracha. At the end of the day, you should really make a bracha achrayna before you leave. That's what you should do. You might forget, so you make a bracha achrayna. Doesn't matter what kind of food you're eating. Let's say you're eating bread, and you have to come back. Tzarech, levarech, you have to make another bracha. Meisvei, b'nei chabur shoyim mesubim lishtois, v'ak raglim, lotzis likras chosan, or likras Cala. Here, Cala, that's why I said it. He's mentioned here. There's, a guy had to leave. In other words, there was an emergency. Not stam, he left. There was a chosan in Cala. He wanted to be mesameach chosan in Cala. He had to run. I'm using lashon of the Rashbam. He had to run. He's in a rush. So he gets up and leaves. You don't have to make a birkas hamazon when you leave, and when you come back, you don't have to make another bracha to start off. It's one suda. Says the Gemara. Let's qualify this. You're leaving somebody behind. It doesn't mean a zaken chayla. It means anybody. Typically, a zaken chayla are not going to run with you to the Shalom Zachar and go be Mesamech Chazon. They're going to stay home. You need to leave a shomer. What's the concept of a shomer? Shomer is not somebody that's going to remind you to bench. Shomer means he's watching the table. He's part of the suda. For instance, you go to all-you-can-eat restaurant. I had this chus a couple times, papagayo. Not Zuchron Brocha, but I'm saying like the whole idea of kind of restaurants. One day, you go to what? Sunday. Sunday is going to be open. We'll see what happens. Doesn't? No, Adarabba, Yosef, you have a good voice. Adarabba, someday. So you go on Sunday. You want to go celebrate that all the restaurants are opening back up in Eretz Yisrael. So you go on Sunday, huh? Only if you have the people that could come into this room now to learn Torah could go to the restaurants. So you celebrate in a restaurant. So a lot of times you go to Papagayo, you come with 26 friends, and you leave one guy at the table, and you leave. You go home, you spatzir, you come back 3 hours later, you say, no, the guy's still at the table, we're just in the middle of the Suda, and you come back. It's not pshat, he's reminding you to eat. He didn't leave. They can't close the meal. He's there at the table. That's what it means. Shomer, you leave one guy behind, and then the Suda continues. This is the problem, according to what we just learned in Rav Chisda. If you don't leave anybody behind, when you leave, you have to make a bracha. You have to make a first bracha. But why? According to Shmuel, according to Rav Chisda, if you're in the middle of eating certain foods, according to Rashbam, it could be any food, cake, that you have to make a bracha achrayna on, mein shalosh, you're eating shivas haminim, for instance. So you don't have to make a bracha when you leave. Why? Because you're required, according to Beis Hillel, to come back and make a bracha. So it's considered one suda. So you don't have to make brachas when you leave and when you come back. Over here it's saying that you do have to if you don't leave an old man. Why? According to Rav Chizki, you don't have to make any bracha. That's the kasha. From the fact that it says they had to uproot their feet to leave. We're talking about they were mechuyev to leave. There was a chasana. You had to go. You have to go. It says akru. They uprooted themselves. They weren't drinking a cup of water. When you drink a cup of water, it doesn't say the lashon akru. You uprooted yourself. You left. Over here, you had to. In other words, you're in the middle of eating bread or something that requires you to come back. And it's only because it's only because you left somebody there. That's why you don't have to make a bracha when you leave and come back. But it says mefurish, if you didn't leave a zaken and chayla, you do have to make a bracha. Kashel Rav Chizda, who says you don't have to make a bracha, tchila. So who is it that points out here? Tosfos? Yeah. Tosfos points out that you never have to make, only one bracha achrein is enough. When you come back home, if you forgot by mistake, you don't say, oh, let me bench for what I forgot before, and then let me make another bracha. You only have to make another bracha rishayna and one bracha at the end, he says. Well, if you're going to leave, but he said, no, time out. Let me qualify this. When you leave, you should make a birkas hamazon. Just in case you forget and you get you held up over there and you stay 6 hours at the Shalom Zachar. So make a birkas hamazon. But let's say you forgot and you come back, don't make a birkas hamazon on what you forgot, and then make another birkas hamoitzi and then a birkas hamazon. Just another birkas hamoitzi. But that's what it says. You should make another birkas hamoitzi. So the Gemara answers. Who's this whole thing? It's not Rav Chizda at all. It's Rebbe Yehuda. So you don't have a kasha. We'll continue here tomorrow. Have a wonderful day. Shira Malois Mamakim Yosef Adonai. Nishma b'koli. Stop. Welcome, Yaakov. Welcome.
It's so nice to be back. I missed you.
Where were you taking selfies about him, Elshie? You were so excited to be here. Unreal.
Whole family's doing Daf Yomi. Avram's trying to come back.
No way.
Yeah.
Is he finally going to come? I would like to see that.
My brother George said.
How many years?
You go today. We were a bunch of people here. What's the show?
No, we're almost there. We're almost there. You know, it's better like this. So you don't have to have.
You're good. Oh,
you're trying to do this.
No, it was year ago today. The Moshe Shabbos, the last night here, so we closed up. And it was 40 after Purim. It was Tuesday, Moshe Shabbos was
Unbelievable.
and then the next day Sunday, we were empty.
Garbage. I was sitting in the house, crying. Nobody there. One guy in the street to get corona from each other. Gershon membership.
Put the mic back on. Put the mic back on.
Inside.
Good album? Yeah. Why not? Speak to God. Why not? Good. Speak to God.
Are you excited for Sunday? Are you excited to go to the restaurant?